Okay, so next we're moving on. These two wines are actually made from the Lacrima grape, both of them, and that is a very aromatic grape. It's got, the first time I tasted this one was a couple of years ago, and I bought it from Ned, and it just was like rose petals. It was so wonderful. And he introduced me to this rosé, and you know me and my rosé, and up until September and then back at Thanksgiving, this is the wine of choice for me. It's a nice dry style. It's not bone dry, but it's definitely dry, and it does have that aromatic appeal. Talk about the Lacrima grape.
The Lacrima grape is grown in the Marche region of Italy, which is central Italy on the Adriatic side. One of the things that Italy does in general is to they make sure that the diversity of the wines is preserved, because that's one of the great appeals of Italian wine and wine in general, is diversity. So the Lacrima grape grows only in the Marche, and it had fallen out of disuse until 1985 when the government decided to establish a DOC for the grape. And the DOC is Lacrima di Moro di Alba. Moro d'Alba is an area in the Marche, and they make very aromatic wines. There's a touch of rose on the nose, and it makes a wonderful rosé, as in this wine here, rosé.
Rose and rosé.
It's called Le Rose di Settembre, actually, the roses of September. And I like to say that this wine puts the rose in rosé, because you do get a distinct nose of rose on the...
And because you get it in the nose, you also get that on the palate. You get a hint of that on the palate,
Right.
which made it so different for me and so drinkable. And not so much, even though this is, would you consider this an ancient grape varietal?
Well, I think all varietals are I think grapes go back to
Yeah.
the beginning of time, but when it was discovered, when it was classified, that I don't know.
Okay, so to me, this has got appeal because it's approachable. That it's not going to be a lot of Italian wines. You think of Chianti, and it's the bad Chianti that you get in restaurants, and they tend to be overly acidic. And people don't understand that when you're tasting a wine and you don't have a plate of pasta in front of you or something to kind of tone down that bright acidity that you get in some of the wines. And I think these are just lovely, lovely,
Right.
medium-bodied wines.
Yeah, acidity is actually one of the hallmarks of not just Italian wine, but French wine
European,
as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
In fact, there's an importer in New York. It's AI, and nobody knows what it means except A stands for acidity. I found that out.
I love it.
And yeah, acidity clears the palate. Well, one of the reasons these are great food wines. The higher the acidity, the more it clears your palate. The other element that clears your palate are the tannins. So this is not a high tannin wine, the red, the Lacrima di Moro di Alba.
What's a traditional food from that region?
Oh, well, they use some interesting spices in that region, actually. They use cloves on the Adriatic. And nutmeg.
Oh, nice.
And so that's something you don't find all over Italy.
No, for sure.
But you do find it in Greece, and
Yeah.
interesting enough, they face Greece. So it's sort of an Adriatic culture there.
I love it.
Their wines, their white wines, we don't have any out here, but they tend to have a kind of a more salinity to them, which makes them great pairings with seafood and raw fish especially.
Lovely.
And this Lacrima di Moro di Alba, even though it's a red, it doesn't have a lot of tannins, and it goes wonderfully with a lot of seafood and fish dishes, actually,
Good.
as does the rosé.
Perfect. And then we're going to move on to our Valpolicella.
Okay,
Should we chat about that?
Yes, this has a class. I love the label on this. It's a label
It looks
that
more updated.
if you go to the Veneto region, you'll see a lot of these wines with similar labels. The coloring, it's just, I don't know if it's required, but it's become sort of a tradition. This is a Valpolicella Valpolicella Classico. So it's from the oldest zone of Valpolicella, which has the Classico distinction on it, and certain different rules, although they don't vary that much. And Valpolicella actually is Italian for Valley of Many Cellars. I just found that out recently.
Oh, that's great.
Val is valley, poli is many, and cella is from the word cellar. So
I love
it's also a town, and it's one of the great wine growing regions of Italy. It's a blend of 3 grapes that do not grow in California. The first is Corvina, the second is Rondinella, and the third is Molinari. Wine is a Primitivo which is from the heel of the boot of Italy, southern Italy, called Puglia, Puglia. And it's an IGT Salento, that's a part of Puglia. The thing about Primitivo and a lot of the wines from Puglia is they cook with more spices than in the north, so their wines have a certain fruitiness to them that a lot of American drinkers find very easy to relate to. In fact, if you're a Zinfandel drinker, you definitely should try a bottle of this.
And we do sell a lot of Zinfandel. That's probably one of our top-selling grape varietals here at the wine shop. So,
well, there you go.
And we've had the Primitivo before, and so I'm thinking that this one's going to be very nice. And then, last but not least, we're moving on to the.
This is another Marche wine, which is again central Italy on the Adriatic coast. It's a big red with some oak on it. And it's made with it's called a Rosso Piceno Superiore. That's the name of that's the DOC on this. And it is made with Montepulciano and Sangiovese grapes. In fact, it's made with the Brunello clone of the Sangiovese grape, which is called Sangiovese Grosso. About 50-50. It's a big wine. You could compare it to like a Chianti Classico or a Chianti Classico Reserva, in that it has tannins, it has acidity, and it has big fruit. It's a very structured wine.
So I think one thing that I've learned today is not just that these will go with Italian food, but you really want to try and marry the region with the regional food or cuisine of that particular area. And next time when we do an Italian tasting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of research, and I'm going to give you some specific suggestions of what's going to go with this wine versus what's going to go with this wine, and it'll be regionally based.
That said, a hamburger will go very well with a lot of these. So,
Okay, well,
don't feel limited to the region.
We'll keep that in mind. We'll keep that in mind. Ned, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we look forward to doing more business with you.
All right.
We have to say goodbye to Buddy.
Oh,
Bye,
bye, buddy.
Buddy.
See ya.